This week on Archery 101, we're going to talk about the Indoor Archery 300 Round. Hey everybody, Greg here, and welcome back to Archery 101. Now what we're going to do is cover a little bit of target archery, indoor target archery to be specific. You know, archery is a lot of different things to different people, and all that's great. And in fact, that's what I love about it. And sometimes you want to say, maybe, well, let's see how good I am. So an indoor 300 round is a simple way to do it. And I do all mine in the winter. It's pretty cold to shoot outside. I live in the Northwest, so it's a simple way to do it. Now, did some searching, and from what I can tell, at least here in the United States, 300 rounds are mainly done in local levels. I could only find one national level event, and that was put on by the NFAA, National Field Archery Association, and that is the Indoor National Championships. So, looks like it's just a local thing, but they are a lot of fun. All right. Now, before we begin, let's talk about a couple things. What are the positives of an indoor shoot? Well, the positives are that the 300 shoot, because the target never moves and you never move, is great for working on form and developing consistency. Right? Perfect platform for that. Now, what's the negatives? Man, it can be humbling. You might think you're consistent, but that paper does not lie. All right? You know, what do you call consistent? Well, hitting the X is the goal. So if you're not hitting the X, you're not that consistent. But, you know, once again, depends on what you like. But let me tell you about my experience on it. First time I did one, I practiced for a couple weeks. I was shooting right-handed, and I did a competition. And I scored a whopping 184. In fact, I came in 5th place. Not that good. So I got serious about it. And in this past year, in the month of December, I did nothing but an indoor 300 lake where I worked on form and got it down. So this past year, I went and entered the same tournament again, and I shot a 235. So that was a big jump. And as a matter of fact, I also took 1st place. So I went from 5th to 1st in 1 year. Why? Because I figured out how to do it, I worked at it, and I perfected it. And that is what we're going to talk about today. Alright, so what is a 300? Well, the name itself is derived from the number of possible points you can get, which is 300. Pretty simple, right? I like that name. 300 points. So what do? It's real simple. Real simple. All you're going to do is shoot 60 arrows. That's it. That is a 300 round, 60 arrows. Now what you do is you shoot those 60 arrows, 5 arrows at a time. Now here comes some terminology parts, and this only really applies to the scorecard. It doesn't really mean a whole lot to you. The 5 arrows you shoot is called an end. Now there's 4 ends to a game and 3 games to a round. And this has nothing to do with you, but it's on the scorecard, but just so you know the terminology, that's how the terminology works. All right, so 60 arrows, 5 at a time. 4 ends equals a game, 3 games equals a round. And that is 300. Pretty simple, right? All right, let's go on to the next part. All right, everybody, now that we know what a 300 is, let's talk about the target. The target is derived from a field archery target. I'm pretty sure of that. Most of them are dark blue, some are black, some are light blue. They always have a white center. They are 16 inches across. That's how big the target is. Some people call them the 40 centimeter target, I believe it is. I'm not too sure about that. Never paid much attention to it. The distance you're going to be shooting it from is 20 yards or 18 meters, some places use. Once again, it's pretty much the same. It's like a foot difference. All right. So the big thing you're going to see about the target, there's 2 types. There's a 1 spot and a 5 spot. Now, if you're first time shooting, I would highly recommend shooting the 1 spot. It gives you more variance, you won't lose as many points. All right, and it'll make you feel better. The 5-pointer or 5-spotter is for people that are really, really good. All right, and it doesn't have a lot of leeway for you. So we're going to start off with the 1 spot, which you see right here. Right. In the one spot, the first thing you see is the center with an X in it. That X is 5 points. That X is only 1.75 inches wide. Now, why is there an X besides making you feel good? It's used for tiebreakers. So let's say you and the guy next to you have the exact same score. How they determine who wins is by who has the most X's. Now, to get an X, all you have to do is have your arrow touch that line. And I mean just by the hair of your chinny chin chin. And it's considered an X. But what if you both have the same number of X's? Well, then they bring in a second type of X. It's called the inside X. And if your arrow is inside that circle, not touching it at all, that's called an inside X. And they track those on your scorecard. So the inside X is better than a regular X. And those are only used for tiebreaker purposes. Otherwise, they have no real meaning. So when you're shooting, if you have the same score, you're going to determine tiebreakers by who has the most X's. If you have the same amount of X's, it's who has the most inside X's. All right? Now the next part on it is the 5 ring. The 5 ring wraps around the X. The 5 ring is 3 inches wide. A little more leeway, but putting a bunch of arrows in at 3 inches at 20 yards, that ain't easy if you're shooting traditional. Then we have the 4 ring, which is 6 inches wide. You have the 3 ring, which is 9.5 inches wide. You have the 12 ring, which is 12.5 inches wide. And you have the 1 ring, which is 16 inches wide. Most rings are 1.5 inches wide. All right. Pretty simple. That's the setup for your target. So you got your scores. The max you can get is 5, and the lowest you can get, well, would be a 0 if you miss. But if you hit the target, it's a 1. And it's a good thing because, you know, if you hit a 1, you only lost 4 points. If you ever done a 450 and you get a 1, you lost 9 points. So 300 is a little easier on you. So the next one up is the 5 spot. Now the 5 spot is for the advanced shooter, and it's less forgiving. Now there is some variance here. Everywhere I've shot, there's only 2 points for it, a 5 and a 4. Now if you look at the circle, you can see it looks like it could be a 3. I've known some places to do it, but I will say they are in the minority. Right, so normally it's just a 5 and a 4. And those are the 2 primary targets used in a 300 round. Alright, so we know that a 300 round is 60 arrows, shot 5 at a time. We know we have a choice of targets, a 1 spot, which is 16 inches across, and a 5 spotter, alright, which is how much across? Let me look at my cheat sheet. If it's a 4 ring, it's about 6 inches across. So, we know what the X's are for. They're for tiebreakers. Alright, so we'll talk about the shoot now. Let's actually talk about the shoot itself. Now, how each place runs it is different. It also depends on the size of the location. Some places, if they're big enough, or if there's not that big of a turnout, you will shoot non-stop. You'll go down, you'll shoot your 5 arrows, go down, score it, and come back. One thing I'll tell you about shooting, don't touch the arrows. All right? Really bad. And then it's a good reason for it, because if you touch it and you move it, you might tear the paper and give them a higher score. So they don't like you to touch the arrows. And then some places, when you pull the arrow out, you put a tick mark with a pencil on it in case you get a bounce out, which is something you got to look up on the rules for. We'll talk about that maybe another day. So those are little things you need to know. When you do that, put on the scorecard, you walk back and you do it. You do it how many times? Very good. You guys are learning. You know, this classroom stuff is really awesome. 5 arrows is an end, right? 4 ends is a game, and 3 games is a round. So you'll do that how many times? 4 times 3 is? You rock, baby! That's right, 12. So when you're done with all 12, you score it and you figure it out. But some places either have huge turnouts or not enough room. And what they do is they double stack their targets. So you'll put yours up here, maybe a guy will put yours below it. So you'll shoot your end, you'll leave the room, he'll shoot his end, then you both go down and you do your scoring. Now that's when it can get tricky because that takes a little bit more time. All right? So make sure you know that, check it out. And if they do that, you better practice for it because I'm telling you, those breaks can take a toll on you. All right, so a couple things you need to know. There's a big difference between practice and competition. I can't tell you how many people have told me, oh Greg, I shoot a 250 in practice, I do it all the time. Then they come out and shoot a tournament and they're down like 220. And I go, well, what happened? And I'm telling you, the pressure is intense at times. I know pressure's all up here. But I'm telling you, you're standing next to the guy, and let's say he's in the same class, and I've had this happen, and you watch him draw, and you're at full draw, and out of the corner of your eye, you see he nailed that X, and you're like, uh-oh, I better shoot. Good. So you let go, and boom, you nailed it too. Oh my gosh, I just lost 3 points. Now you got to make it up. So that's where the fun for me comes in, is that little play back and forth, and you got to block out those distractions of him scoring, and you got to focus on your target. And that's one of the things I think that a 300 makes you become a better archer. So practice competitions, two different things. When people tell me their practice scores, it's not the same. You do lose some points just from being in a competition itself. So now you're probably asking, well, what's the averages? You know, how do I judge myself? And that's why I did target archery. I want to know, where do I stand? You know, I'm pretty good at my 3Ds. I hit most of my targets, and we shoot for fun. And I was curious, I wonder how I stand. So I found out real quick, didn't I? All right? So these are for traditional. I can't tell you about compounds because I don't shoot them, but for traditional archers, if you're a first timer and you're doing it and you've never done it before, a 120 to 150 is about where most people score. Right? If you're a novice, you've done it a couple of times, but you don't practice it on a regular basis, or it's your you're practicing, it's your first competition, your scores will be anywhere between 150 and 180. If you've done it a couple of times and you're an average, average level archer, they score between 180 and 200. Above average archers score anywhere between 200 and 230. 230 is considered above average and doing pretty darn good. Now, lower level for national competition is about 240. You're not going to win, but you're not going to be, badly out of it. You're going to be acceptable level. When you can start shooting at 240 in competitions, that's when you can think about going to national level. Mid-level and national level is about 250, 260, and the upper level is 270 and above. All right? Those guys there, they're awesome. Now, remember when I talked about knowing the divisions? The guys that shoot the really, really high scores are the guys that are using either string walking, gap, split vision, or better yet is point on. And that's why string walking guys just dominate, because they put that arrowhead right on top on that X every time and they can nail it like that. Watch D. Wayne Martin, Jimmy Blackman, they hit X's all day long, right? My record for most X's out of 60 arrows was 18, all right? So I'm not even close to them. And I'm shooting gap with my current bow, and my arrowhead is about 1.5 feet below the target. And I haven't been able to get it up there yet. I'm still playing with that, and hopefully I'll get it. All right, boys and girls, let's wrap it all up and put it back up. So we know what a 300 is, right? A 300 is derived from an outdoor shoot. Probably cold weather, they want to go inside. The name is derived from the possible points you can get. A 300 consists of 60 arrows. Those 60 arrows are shot 5 at a time. Those 5 arrows are called an end. 4 ends is a game, and 3 games is a round. You do it from 20 yards. Now, if you're European, I think it's 18 meters. It's about a foot difference. Right? When you go down, don't touch the arrows. Some clubs mark it. Most importantly, find out the rules they're using. Find out the proper division to compete in. That's a big thing. It's going to humble you. It's great for form, great for consistency, and it's a lot of fun, right? And if you're in my area, come on out to the Mid-Hudson Open. It's the one I shoot every year, and I travel around. I'm doing more and more of them during the wintertime. Come shoot with me. Maybe we'll have some fun. If you beat me, I'll shake your hand. If you don't, I'll still shake your hand, all right? Hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned a little bit about a 300. They're lots of fun, and I simply cannot believe how much better I've gotten at it once I took it serious. All right, boys and girls, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time with an all-new episode of Archery 101.